Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're tracking a really dynamic situation out in the Pacific, Hurricane Fausto. We're going to break down the exact threat this storm poses, analyze its trajectory, and, figure out what actions we actually need to take based on the facts. It's a serious situation, for sure, but there's absolutely no need to panic. Instead, we're just going to let the science and the data show us exactly what's heading our way step by step.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Right now, Fausto is a powerful Category 2 hurricane churning westward. And yeah, when you hear Category 2, that naturally commands respect. But as we'll explore, the Hawaiian Islands might just catch a very lucky break here. Think of Hawaii as a tiny target in a massive ocean that often has this kind of invisible atmospheric shield. Today, we're going to look at the fascinating conditions that could actively protect the state.
All right, let's hit the hard numbers to see exactly what we're dealing with at this very moment. As I just mentioned, Fausto is currently sitting at a formidable Category 2 status on the Saffir-Simpson scale.
To put that into perspective, this system is packing maximum sustained winds, hitting exactly 100 miles per hour. That is a massive amount of energy swirling out there.
And this storm is definitely not sitting still. It's actively moving west toward the central North Pacific, tracking at a steady speed of 14 miles per hour.
So where exactly is all of this happening right now? Well, according to data from the National Hurricane Center valid at 11 a.m. on Saturday, Fausto was pinned at 1,140 miles east of Hilo. Having a storm over 1,000 miles out, that's great news. It gives forecasters a critical window of time to map its path, and it gives residents a vital window of time to prepare.
Section 1. Anatomy of Fausto. Understanding the threat zone.
Now, what's really interesting here is that with tropical cyclones, it's never just about where the eye of the storm goes. Notice the stark contrast in these two wind threats. The most severe, hurricane-force winds are tightly packed, extending outward up to 40 miles. But look just below that. Tropical storm-force winds push out to a massive 185 miles. It beautifully illustrates how you can be located super far from the eye, yet still get caught in a highly disruptive wind field.
Section 2. The forecast track, when and where.
Let's move on and see how this builds, because we really need to know when this system is moving into our neighborhood. We start our timeline on Saturday with the storm well over 1,000 miles away. But by late Sunday, we actually feel the first physical effects as large ocean swells hit those east-facing shores. On Monday, a major atmospheric shift happens as wind shear begins to increase against the storm. And finally, by Tuesday into Wednesday, the current forecast track has Fausto making its closest approach, passing just slightly north of the islands. By that time, it's expected to have downgraded to a tropical storm.
Section 3. The battle. Why Fausto is weakening.
The ocean and the atmosphere aren't just empty space. They are actively stepping into the ring to fight this hurricane. A primary weapon in this battle, wind shear. That's essentially the changing of wind speed and direction at different altitudes. Imagine pushing the top of a spinning top while the bottom stays still. It wobbles, right? And then it falls over. Wind shear does exactly that to a tropical system. By Monday, Fausto is going to run headfirst into increasing wind shear coming from the southwest, which will significantly speed up its weakening.
In fact, the Pacific is throwing three main environmental enemies at this cyclone to tear it apart. First, it's moving into a region of drier air, which basically chokes off the storm's moisture. Second, it's tracking over slightly cooler ocean waters, which drains away its heat energy. And third, it's getting hit by that aggressive southwest wind shear we just talked about. Because of these three factors, the system is going to become much less symmetrical. The storm will essentially tilt, shoving all of its heaviest rain and strongest winds almost entirely into its northern half.
Section 4. Potential Hawaii impacts, 2 scenarios.
But what does the structural change actually mean for folks on the ground? Let's break down the two possibilities side by side. On the left, if the forecast holds exactly as predicted, the storm becomes less symmetrical, and all those intense winds and heavy rain stay safely north of Hawaii. But on the right, if that track shifts even slightly to the south, the reality changes entirely. A southward shift drastically increases the chances for severe impacts. In weather tracking, incredibly small changes in a forecast track can result in massive differences, which is why paying close attention right now is absolutely crucial.
So, the crucial point is that we cannot just sit back and wait to see what happens with the rain. Regardless of the exact track, the sheer energy from Fausto is pushing massive amounts of water toward the coast, and a high surf advisory is officially in effect. Large ocean swells generated by this hurricane are going to produce very dangerous waves on east-facing shores starting late Sunday. Whether the rain hits or misses, you absolutely must respect the ocean right now.
Section 5. Hurricane Season Preparedness Beyond Fausto. Because really, tracking a specific storm is only half the battle. Your personal readiness is the other half. Even if Fausto weakens into a tropical storm, and even if all that rain passes harmlessly to the north, you need to consider this a massive wake-up call. We are in the middle of what's predicted to be a very busy hurricane season, and this threat doesn't officially end until November 30th.
So I want to leave you with this to think about. Are you actually ready for the rest of hurricane season? When you watch a storm like Fausto sit out there in the ocean packing 100-mile-per-hour winds, just hoping for a lucky break with wind shear isn't a sustainable strategy. Use this moment. Take today to double-check those emergency supplies, review your family's evacuation plan, and remember to always respect the raw power of these systems. Because ultimately, the most important variable in any weather forecast isn't the wind speed or the track, it's how prepared you are when the storm arrives. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and stay safe out there.